Okay, so this video is just a quick and simple tutorial on how to use constructors in Java. So, to explain what a constructor is in Java, I think the easiest way is by example. Here we have a really simple little class called person. Okay? It has two private variables, a string called name and an integer called age. So, in a sort of object-orientated style, this class will represent a person, and the information we're storing is name and age. Just two pieces of info, nice and simple. It's got two methods, two getters, that's what they're called. You've got setters and getters. Setters set variables, getters get variables. That's not too important. You just got two methods, right? You got get name, right, which returns the name of the person, and you've got get age, which returns the age of the person. This is the constructor, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. Okay. First, we're going to write a little Java program using our class. So I'm going to make a little class called example, and remember, if you have a public class, it always needs to be called the same thing as your file. That's the rule. So because this is a public class called example, the file needs to be called example.java. I don't exactly remember how to compile this from the command line. It can't be too hard. So this is our little hello world code. I just want to see if this compiles. What is it? Java C example.java. Cannot find symbol string. Oh, because I spelled string wrong. I said S-T-I-R-N-G, which should be S-T-R-I-N-G. Let's try that again. Hey, it compiled and we've got an example.class, and we can run this by doing Java space example. Just example by itself. Hello world. There we go. There's our output. So now we can add the person to our little program. I just want to stress at this point, this is not a lot of code, just 22 lines, really basic, just to demonstrate what a constructor is. So usually, when you're using a class, you have to type at the top here, import tutorial.example.person, but we don't have to do that now because we haven't defined, I think it's called a package in Java. We haven't defined that here. We're using the default package because I think you type in here using, was it? Or something. It's not important. It's completely besides the point. So person equals new person. You may have seen this sort of syntax before, especially this new keyword. So we're adding a new person, and now we're going to say person age, and then we do plus person dot get age. Why does that work? So what is this get age? Right? This is calling this method here, get age, which returns a string. God, that's a mistake. That should return an integer. So this is the method get age, returns an integer, and it returns age, which is this thing here. Yeah. So let's run the program and see what it does. If we do Java C example.java and Java C person.java, it should compile. Okay, good, I haven't made a mistake again. So if we run Java example, person age equals 38. And if we use the get name method, you will see that it should say person name is equal, once I compile it, it should say person name is equal to Bob. Person name Bob, person age 38. Now, why is it saying that? Because in the okay, here's the big reveal of the video. This right here is what's known as a constructor. A constructor is always executed implicitly when you instantiate an object. Now, what does that mean in English? This is instantiating an object here because you're using the new keyword. That you're making an object from a class. Person with a capital P is the name of the class. Person with a lowercase p is the name of an object. What is an object? An object is an instance of a class. Nice and simple. So when you say new person, that implicitly is executing this code here. This dot name equal Bob, this dot age equals 38. Now, what does the this keyword mean? We don't need that. It's just sugar. I mean, we can get rid of it. It'll do exactly the same thing, okay? Just think of it like this, okay? Name equals Bob, age equals 38. That's a lot simpler to remember. So let's just compile that again. I'm just going to see if I can do it like this. Yes, I can. I can do it both at once. Saves me some typing. And, hey, there we go. Compiled it, ran it, same output. That's what I want to see. Now, let's do something a little more advanced. Oh, I forgot to mention. This is actually very important. How do you know something is a constructor? You know it's a constructor because it doesn't have a return type. Okay, every method has it needs to have a return type. Every method, right? So, getName returns a string. GetAge returns an integer. What does person return? Nothing. Not even void. Right, void returns nothing. If you put void, it's no longer a constructor. It's a constructor if you do not have a return type specified. The second thing that a constructor must be, and this is the biggest giveaway to know something is a constructor. A constructor is always called the same thing as the class it belongs to. If I call it person constructor, that is gonna fail. We have an error here. Invalid method declaration. Return type required. See, now it no longer recognizes it as a constructor and it's saying that you need a return type. So you don't need a return type with constructors. In fact, you're not allowed a return type with constructors. That's how you know it's a constructor. Okay. The final thing that I'm going to cover in this video is different types of constructors. You can have multiple constructors to one class. Why the hell would you want that, you ask? Well, I'll show you. This is also why I did, what do I call this? I'll call it underscore name and underscore age, because they can't be called the same thing, otherwise it gets confusing. Okay, so underscore name, I'm just going to type this out, give me 1 minute, and age equals underscore age. There we go. So this is a second constructor. We have two constructors with different argument lists, right? So this constructor, the first one, doesn't take any arguments. The second constructor takes 2 arguments, name and age. Okay? So now, let's rename this object person1. And we can say person1 name and person1 age. Let's just compile that and run. Person1 name is Bob, person1 age equals 38. So I think you already know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a second person, person2, and I'm going to print out their name and age, which should also be Bob and 38. And you might already see where I'm going with this. So person1 name, Bob, person2 name is Bob, that's fine, boring. Okay, so person2 name will be Henrik, age will be 21. Compile, run, there we go. So it says Bob 38, Henrik 21. So it's different, right? What have I done? What the hell have I done? Let me explain. See, I'm invoking a different constructor here. You see, I'm invoking the second constructor. With just the open bracket, with this, the open bracket, close bracket, we are invoking the what's known as the default constructor, which means no arguments. Yeah, it's the default constructor. But if we specify a string and an integer, it's like, oh, I see what you're doing. String, integer, that you're trying to invoke this. And that's exactly what it will do. It will execute this code instead of this code. Third and final thing, I'm going to show you how you might screw things up is if you do person3 equals equals Jimmy, and we try and execute this. What's going to happen? It's going to fail. Why does it fail? Because no suitable constructor found for person string. That's actually a really nice error. It says it in almost plain English. It says that all you've given us is a string, one string. That's all the argument list is. It's just a string by itself. We're expecting one of two things. Either, it actually says it here. So the default constructor with no arguments is not applicable in this scenario. And also, the constructor with a string and an integer is also not applicable in this scenario because you haven't specified an integer. So it's saying that we've only got two options available, and this list of arguments fits neither. So the solution to this is we'll make a third constructor with just the name, and the age we will set to 38 as the default age, just so we don't get confused. So if we compile this and run that again, it runs. I forgot to do the output of this. Also, if you're going to do this properly, you might want to consider using an array. I haven't done it just for the sake of simplicity, but it would be a good idea to use an array in this situation. Okay, so person 3 is Jimmy. We haven't specified the age in the constructor. So it's like, okay, we'll just use the default age 38, done. Okay. I decided to cover one more thing about constructors that you might want to know. This is like getting a bit advanced now, is that you can sort of extend constructors, right? You can, almost like inheritance. So you can say that, right, instead of having this separately, you'd say this Bob 38. What is this? Good question. In fact, I will do this, and I will do this. Name 38. This is going to make sense. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so when you put the this keyword with brackets, you're saying that you're invoking the constructor of this class. Which constructor are we invoking? Since we specify one string, we're invoking, well, it's silly to say this constructor, but we're invoking this constructor here that I'm selecting. And what does this constructor invoke? It invokes with a string and an integer, because this is a string and this is an integer. It invokes this piece of code. So this piece of code calls this piece of code that calls this piece of code. Yeah? So you can change the default name for the default age for everybody. If you just put a different age here, it will change the age for Bob, and it will change the age for Henrik. No, hang on, Henrik has the age of 21. It will change the age for Bob and for Jimmy, because Jimmy had the default age and Bob was using the default age. So just changing this one little integer will change the age for both of them, if that's what you want. I'm going to keep it as 38. But here, the Bob, if we change Bob to, let me think, James. If we change it to James, and we run the code again, we execute that code. Now Bob is no longer called Bob, they're now called James. Their age is still 38. Henrik is still 21, Jimmy is 38 as well. Let's make them a more reasonable 26. And compile that, run it. Now Jimmy and James are both age 26. So this is just the last little thing, is you can invoke constructors from other constructors. I'm pretty sure you can do it from methods as well, I might be wrong about that. But that's what a constructor is. A constructor is just invoked when you use the new keyword. It will call a constructor, and it's as simple as that. Okay, good luck.